Alexis Nunes alongside the Stevie Nicol, looking at some of the earlier games in the Premier League on this fine Sunday. Stevie, let's start with Luton going up against Manchester City. Luton, who put out such a brilliant performance and almost walked away with something against Arsenal, have had to welcome Manchester City to the Kenny as well this weekend. Put out a good performance as well, took the lead, but in the end, City came roaring back.
Yeah, I mean, no surprise. Luton, they're always going to be competitive at Kenilworth Road. You know, it's tight, the crowd's on top of you. And so to handle Luton, you have to be competitive yourself. And I got to say, this win for City was all about that. It was about competing. Yes, they did move the ball well, particularly in the first half, but they couldn't really create much. And to go one behind, you're thinking, wow, this could be an upset. But you know what? They came back like champions. The 2 goals they got, you could say were a little fortuitous. You know, it wasn't silky soccer. It wasn't great movement and great passing and moving. It was taking advantage of a couple of little balls that ricocheted the right way. And Bernardo Silva stopped the first one away. And then, 2 minutes later, Grealish did the same thing. Again, the second goal was about the desire and the closing down from Manchester City, and Alvarez puts the ball across and Grealish sticks it away, and all of a sudden from 1-0 down, within a couple of minutes, City's 2-1 up, and from there, they just kept it tight. No surprise, Luton throwing everything at them, balls in the box, balls in the air, big Adebayo, 6'4", always a handful. But Man City, as I said, they competed right to the very end, and in the end actually got what they deserved, and that was a 2-1 victory.
Well, interestingly enough, this is actually City's only their second win in their last 6 games in the league so far. So much so that we've been talking about, is there a crisis at Manchester City? Jack Grealish spoke about it after the game, and he kind of rubbished that and said, look, they've played some top teams in Spurs, in Liverpool as well. But now the fact that they've got this win, fighting back from a goal down, and the fact that they did it without Erling Haaland, who was injured and just took no part in the game, this was the response that Pep Guardiola needed, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, questions certainly were beginning to be asked, and I think they answered them. And when I say that, I'm talking from a competitive, a desire, a spirit type of way. I'm not talking about ability and passing, because we know they can do that. But as always, when things are going bad, you need to stand up strong, and you need to battle, and you need to fight for anything you're going to get. And there's no question that 100% to a man, that's exactly what they did today. So yeah, you can talk about how they play without Haaland. You know, you can ask questions of, you know, where are the goals coming from without Haaland? Because today in this game, I wasn't sure where the goals were coming from. Yes, they had the ball. Yes, they kept possession. Yes, they moved it around. But I just wasn't sure if they were going to break down that defensive unit that Luton put up. So again, I'll repeat what this was all about. This was a competitive victory for Manchester City, and any questions that anybody had about their desire to go and win a 4th title in a row, then that question was answered today. As far as how they went about it, in terms of football, in terms of creating chances, real goal-scoring chances, that again is a different conversation.
All right, well, City back to winning ways. I think a lot of people expected them to do that eventually. But just to pay off Luton as well, another great competitive performance. They have been excellent, I would say, by their standards, considering this is a completely new ball game for them being in the Premier League. But they just need to get the points now eventually.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for them. You know, you talk about heart and desire, and obviously at home, they're going to have to try and get as many points at home as they can, because they really are a different team at Kenilworth Road because of the conditions, because of the small crowd, the small field, how close it is. You know, it's uncomfortable for superstars to go there and play, and so as good as they battle and as competitive as they've been, certainly against Arsenal, Liverpool, against Manchester City, they're not picking up enough points, and that would be the worry. They certainly brought a lot to the Premier League, Let's hope they can stay in it. I'm not so sure they will, though.
All right, well, moving on to the other, I would say probably the bigger result of the day. Everton with a 2-0 victory over Chelsea. Chelsea, their 7th Premier League defeat so far this season. Their second just this week. Obviously, they lost. They went into the match at Old Trafford, as many of us thought they would be favourites for that one, walked away with not a single point. Same thing here as well at Goodison Park, walked away with not a single point. They had possession, but they just didn't really do anything with it. Was it same old Chelsea for you?
Absolutely. You said it. They didn't do anything with it. I mean, I don't think this is a huge surprise, this result, to be honest. I mean, Everton are on an incredible run. I mean, you see the atmosphere around Goodison and you see the commitment of the team. You wouldn't think they'd just been docked 10 points. You know, they really are at it and they really are flying. They know exactly what they're about. Yes, Chelsea had possession of the ball, but Everton's quite happy with that. They just keep a solid base, keep strong, very well organised, and then when they get their opportunities, boy, do they go forward with pace. And Nicol in particular gets into the penalty box and again scored the first goal today. So, listen, a 2-0 victory for me, for Everton at Goodison against Chelsea is really not a surprise. It's not. It's a Chelsea side, surprise, that when they get to the final third, run out of ideas, don't really create real goal scoring opportunities. Yeah, you can talk about half chances. Pickford made a couple of saves, but there's not really one where you're saying, wow, how did they not score here? And Pochettino made some changes today. He's trying everything. He started with Broha up front. There was no Sterling, no Jackson, no Thiago Silva. You know, he's mixing it up and try to find the formula. But regardless of the name on the back of the jersey, it's the same type of performance, which is possession of the ball, but not a lot on the end of it.
And just looking at some of the, I suppose, comments and the reactions from Chelsea fans after the games, you know, a lot of them were saying that there's just a clear lack of any leaders. They seem that they didn't have that desire to win the game. Would you say that that's something that's plaguing them?
I think that's a little harsh. You know, when you have so much of the ball away from home, that's not a lack of desire, shall we say? They just struggle in the final third, and it's the same old from the start of the season. I don't think they have a problem going from back to middle to front, but once they get to the front, there's no magic, there's no formula, there's no. I mean, everybody looks as though they're not quite sure what they're doing next, and I'm not so sure that Pochettino can do an awful lot about that. You know, at the end of the day, it's about players that have got talent producing it in the final third. Yes, you can do all your patterns and training, but when it comes to the game, when it comes to getting in that final third, that's why you spend millions on people like Sterling and Mudryk and Jackson and Palmer. You know, it's up to them to produce. And they're not producing. That's the bottom line. So, yeah, I think that's a little harsh. Very harsh. I don't think that there's lack of desire. You know, again, leadership, back middle to front, they're fine. They just need somebody who can put the ball in the back of the net.
Well, after the game, I suppose there was another worrying sight for Chelsea, and that was Reece James, who had to come off again when it felt like he was just coming back after the game. Pochettino said that he felt something in his hamstring. So if this is a hamstring injury that could sideline him for a while, just how bad of a miss will this be for Chelsea?
I mean, clearly a miss for Chelsea. It's going to be a miss for England if this continues. It just kind of seems... I don't want to say this as a fact, but it's kind of getting to the stage where you think that there's something going on in his head. Whenever he feels anything, he has to go off because it's just happened too often. And I have to think that the medical staff haven't put him back on the field without thinking he's 100%. I just don't see it. All the tests that he will have done with the medical staff will have told them that he's good to go. And so it kind of makes you think that maybe psychologically he's starting to think things are not quite right. And that's a bad place to be for a professional, never mind a footballer, any professional athlete. So hopefully that is the problem, because I would suggest that that's easier to fix than actually having a physical problem with your hamstring. So yeah, obviously we all hope that Reece James can recover from yet another setback and come back, be strong, and actually stay that way. That's the hope.
Well, another interesting thing that Pochettino said after the loss is that it's something that they need to sit down and analyze, and he said, and try and improve in the next transfer markets. Of course, the January transfer window is coming up. If you're Pochettino and Chelsea, where are you looking to? Because we do know that they have spent and it's still just not working. So which other areas are you looking to improve on?
Look, I think every good team's built on a solid defence, and they're losing too many goals. It's one thing for me to say that from back middle to front they're getting forward and having possession, but A, you need to stop letting goals in, and B, you need to score some yourself. So the two areas, obviously, they'll probably think that Nkunku is closer to coming back than not, or being fit, shall we say. So hopefully they're hoping he's the answer to the puzzle going forward. But definitely they have to figure out what's happening defensively, because you can't keep shipping goals in, particularly when you're struggling to score yourself. That's a recipe for disaster, and right now that's what's happening.